Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3, Snoopaloo here. Alright, and it's good to be here, you know what? Let me turn this down, even though I love the beat, I'm going to turn it down just a bit, just in case there's any echo. I usually don't wear headphones for my live streams, I'll actually watch it from the speakers. I do a couple of things different when I live stream. Speaking of doing things different, I don't know if y'all noticed, but today we did our first top 5 list that wasn't like paranormal or supernatural, at least with videos. Our first top 5 list involving videos, and yeah, I thought it came together pretty well. I like the editing. But I figured let's keep the ball rolling with that just for today anyway, and then we'll get back to our regularly scheduled program right after this. But I thought it would be fun if we checked out some Mr. Nightmare true stories. And you know what? Usually here on this channel we'll watch paranormal stuff and we'll try and judge its authenticity, whether or not we think it's real. I think it's real. I thought it would be fun if we did that for these stories, because you know what, I am a fan of his channel, but every now and then, because you watch so much of it, you start to notice patterns. It's like, I don't know, maybe this kind of thing just happens to people a lot, you know? Maybe people check into hotels all the time, and it turns out there's someone already in there, or someone has a key. Apparently. I don't know. Let's figure this out together, and yeah, it'll be fun, while also keeping us preoccupied from how scary the stories, I'm sure, actually are. And yeah, I can't wait. I'm going to be taking quick breaks in between videos this time around, just to improve my guessing power. Okay. It's been a while, I'm not gonna lie, since I've seen Mr. Nightmares. I'm looking forward to this.
What you're about to hear is the scariest thing I'd ever experienced. My sister and her husband were going away to Hawaii for a week. So since I'm the second oldest, she asked me to watch my 2-year-old nephew Sean for the duration. 2 was a tricky age for me because Sean was still in diapers at the time, and changing diapers was the last thing I ever wanted to be doing. Still, family is family, and I had to return a favor to them anyway. I was sleeping in the guest bedroom upstairs for the duration, and by the 3rd day I had everything down to a rhythm. Wake up, feed him, do my work in the living room while supervising him as he played,
the audio there.
feeding him again, then
I'm
putting him to
listening.
bed.
Multitasking.
My sister has a high-tech baby monitor that connects to a touchscreen tablet.
I figured there
sound and
would
video
be
from
one.
above Sean's crib and feeds it to the tablet. I would keep that by my side while he slept, no matter where I was. The living room, the bedroom, anywhere. Midday most of the time he'd get sleepy and I'd bring him to his crib to take a nap. By like the 4th day, Sean was taking a nap,
the mic's a bit
so
loud.
I was in the
Hopefully that
backyard
makes it
sitting at
better.
my sister's outdoor bar on my laptop. I had the baby monitor placed on the bar, so I was able to easily hear Sean start to laugh at something. I checked the tablet, and I saw him standing in his crib, so I guessed it was time to take him out. I went up to his room and grabbed him to bring him outside in the yard with me, where he...
Before we find out what he finds, y'all remember that one viral video where the baby stands up on the edge of his crib while he's crying? You guys think that was paranormal, or that was just like a freaky thing that happened? Kid's gonna be like a tightrope walker when he grows up.
drove around in his little electric toy car. For basically the rest of the day, I just watched Sean play with his toys while I would either be doing work on my laptop or just watching something on TV. Shortly after dinner time, I changed him one last time and put him into his crib. An hour or so passed, and there really wasn't much else for me to do. I wasn't interested in anything playing on TV, so I went upstairs to the guest bedroom to put an end to the night. Laying in bed in the dark, the room suddenly lit up from the tablet on the bedside table. I heard Sean laughing again.
Whoa.
The tablet would light up if any significant amount of motion or sound was detected. I was comfortable in my position. I didn't
Kids
really wanna
laughing
move. But when the screen
certain
suddenly went
settings.
dark, yet I could still hear Sean's laughs, I got confused. I picked up the
Yeah,
tablet,
it is
and all
creepy.
I saw was
Can
black.
be.
Yet, in a way, it seemed as though the screen was still on. I heard Sean say the word "yeah" as he continued laughing.
Oh, snap.
Something wasn't right. I set the tablet down and began walking to Sean's room.
You guys think this is
calling his name
paranormal
as I
or
was
someone's
on
in
my
there?
way. I got to his room, and he was standing in his crib. I asked him why he was awake and who he was talking to. He then tried reaching for something atop the crib, but his short arms couldn't reach it. It seemed he was going for the camera for the baby monitor. So I pointed at it and said, "Camera?" And he replied, "Yeah." I picked him up to give him a little lift to see what he was trying to do with the camera. And as I lifted him, he used his little thumb to cover the camera lens. My heart sank as I
You know
put
what?
the
Let's
pieces
make it.
together. The reason the tablet went dark was because it was being covered by someone, but I knew it wasn't Sean based on the fact that he couldn't reach it. "Sean, is someone in here?" I asked him. And in response, he pointed to the closet.
Oh,
Picked him
man,
up
that
and ran outside to the neighbor's house, pounding on the door, screaming for help.
trying to jump scare me?
An elderly woman answered, and she let me call the police with her phone.
Okay.
She was already clearly close with Sean, and because of that, she seemed a lot more comforting.
And did the police find an actual
Police
person?
showed up and said when they checked the upstairs closet, it was open, but no one was inside. The fact that it was open alone says everything. Someone was in Sean's closet that night. They must have made an escape
Yeah.
and they took Sean and ran. The officers told me to stay at someone else's place for the night, and the elderly woman next door allowed us to sleep there.
Did I? Okay.
The next few nights after that, I watched
didn't
Sean
take-
at my apartment.
All right.
My sister and her husband cut the
Wording
trip
there.
short, of course, after hearing the news.
Wow. You know, with Mr. Nightmare, there's nothing on my desktop. You never know. Actually, that's not what I was going to say. What I was going to say with Mr. Nightmare, sometimes I'll start a sentence and not know where it's going. But no, with Mr. Nightmare, sometimes, I did it again. I never really noticed him, like with his stories, his true horror stories anyway. I never really, you never really hear any ghost stories on his channel. At least I've never heard any. Is it just me? I don't know. Let me know in the comments. We got this.
I was a 10-year-old diabetic who lived on the second-story floor. My parents lived on the first floor. That night, my dad was watching a scary movie about aliens. The aliens took over the world and were controlling people with their minds.
Can we guess the movie?
I was unable to sleep in the room that I shared with my sister that night, so instead I slept on the first-story floor with my parents. At that
Taking
time,
over
my
people's
parents were using a
minds.
baby monitor to make sure I didn't need any help in the middle of the night to take care of my diabetes.
That's really generic.
Late that night, as my parents and I
This is a
fell
real
asleep,
movie.
I heard my mother's voice over the baby monitor. She said, "Amanda, honey, come give me a kiss. I'm going to work." In a confused daze, I looked outside to see it was pitch black. That's weird, I go to myself. Isn't it too
Was it?
late for my mom to be going to work?
Oh.
I
Yeah.
rub the sleep out of my eyes as I make my way
I
upstairs.
was gonna say, was it dark
The
early?
door to my sister's room cracks open, but my mom isn't in there. My sister is sound asleep on her bed, and the curtain just drifts open. I look around for my mom, but still can't find her. I make my way fast down the stairs and back into my parents' room, where my mom sat up and went, "What are you doing up?"
Uh-oh.
I said, "Didn't you just ask me to come upstairs to give you a kiss goodbye?"
Oh.
She looks at me funny. "No, why would I say that?" she said. I looked at the baby monitor and said, "You didn't hear that?" She looked at me funny and says, "Go back to sleep."
With these stories, I always
I lay on the
automatically
floor
assume they're
shaking,
true,
thinking
though.
about what just happened.
You gotta get out of that mindset. Was that a paranormal one? Man, do I need to
Back
shut up.
into my parents' room, where my mom sat up and went, "What are you doing up?" I said, "Didn't you just ask me to come upstairs to give you a kiss goodbye?" She looks at me funny. "No, why would I say that?" she said. I looked at the baby monitor and and said, "You didn't hear that?" She looked at me funny and says, "Go back to sleep." I lay on the floor shaking, thinking about what just happened.
Paranormal. Right when I was talking smack, we get a paranormal story.
In my teens
I believe
and early
that one.
20s,
That kind of thing
I
happens
would
all the time. You
babysit
hear
as
something
my
over a
side
baby
hustle.
monitor. That was an
I
Insidious.
was always really good with toddlers and babies, and usually
Phones
the
and
parents
stuff.
of the really young ones would pay more. There was this one pair of kids named Lucas and Adriana. Lucas was 2 and Adriana was 7, though Adriana doesn't have much to do with this story. I'll just say that right now.
Okay.
Lucas didn't really speak
Already.
much, though I was told he had only just turned
Believable.
2 a few weeks ago at the time. After a long
letting
and
you know.
stressful day of watching the kids, they went to sleep. I would be spending the night at this couple's house watching their kids while they were out in some beach town with friends or something. When the kids finally went to sleep, I had some peace and quiet and time to unwind, as watching the 2 of them was a lot. I lay in the living room watching a movie.
Yeah.
The couple actually still had a baby monitor for Lucas's room.
I was the
They
oldest,
asked me
so
to
I
keep
was
that in
always the
earshot when he
babysitter.
went to sleep. I left
Got
it on the
paid
coffee
crap,
table in the
too.
living room. Eventually, I ended up on a FaceTime call with my friend.
Something like
That ate away so much
$3 an
time
hour.
that by the end of it, it was past 12.
And this was just in
I
the
went to
90s.
sleep after that. Actually, I fell asleep pretty easily.
I'm old.
The next thing I remember was the dream. The freaky, disturbing, messed up dream. Everyone knows dreams
No, it's like
can be
early
weird and
2000s.
grainy, so I can't describe verbatim what happened in this dream. But the
Naughties.
best I can remember, I somehow had lost the baby monitor and Lucas was missing. After searching through this weird dream version of the couple's house, I found the baby monitor under the bed, and on the screen was
That sounds like a
Lucas's dead body.
straight up stress
And
dream.
upon seeing that, a deep voice kept saying, "This was your fault."
Oh, we're
I
still in the
must have heard
dream.
it like 3 times before I suddenly woke up. After realizing it was just a dream, I remembered the baby monitor. I left it on the coffee table downstairs. But before going down to get it, I figured I'd check Lucas's room first since it was closer anyway.
Oh my
And I
goodness.
saw he was fast asleep.
Okay.
After that, I went downstairs to get the device and went back up to the room I was staying in. I went back to sleep, but once again, I woke up sometime later. But this time, I woke up to the little monitor device beeping and the red light flashing. I picked it up, and on the screen was Lucas standing up looking directly into the camera. Not smiling or laughing, just
You
looking
can't.
dead set into the camera.
Man, you
his
can't
eyes
jump scare
glowing
me.
in the night vision. The way he was looking freaked me out. It was a cause for concern, so
I'd be
I rushed
freaked
over
out
to
too.
his room. But when I got to his room, he was fast asleep,
Back.
laying on his back. I said his name a few times and lightly shook
I
him.
believe that
He
story,
didn't
but
wake up.
he didn't wake
I
up.
looked around the room, scared,
He's messing with you,
feeling like there was
dude.
another presence in there with us. I checked the closet and looked under the crib. No one. I went back to the other
I don't
bedroom
think this is
and
a
looked at the
paranormal.
monitor again, and it showed Lucas laying flat in his crib. I turned it off for the night, but I didn't sleep as easily after that. To this day,
Freaky
I still
dream.
don't understand that dream I had, or if it was,
It was a
some kind of
stress
warning.
dream. You fell
I don't know
asleep
what
while
exactly I was seeing on that baby
an
monitor
infant
screen.
an infant's
I just
life was
don't
in
know
your
what
hands.
to believe was actually real.
You're just stressing a bit about babysitting. You had that dream. And then this little Bart Simpson decided to freak you out, stare into the camera when he heard you coming. He ran into bed. And he ignored you when you were asking if he was awake. Okay, so the Real Rejects reacted to 13 of the creepiest Craigslist ads, which we've done. And Dwayne and Jazz reacted to... No, that's from a year ago. And yeah. There's a couple more reactions. One from 4 months ago. Darn, but none really recent. Okay, hang on, let me read this again. So, are you guys familiar with the animator who does Superman versus Hulk? Like, he releases a video, oh gosh, once in a blue moon. not very often, but it's like a continuation of Hulk fighting Superman. It's actually pretty cool, but he puts in the description of his videos not to re-upload any of them. But I do remember him clarifying in the comments, or maybe it was the description. I checked later and there was an edit, one or the other, but you can go check yourself. He does say, in like the newest one, one of the newest ones, he does say that, but like if you want to react to it, that's fine. If you want to react to it in the corner, that's totally cool. So re-uploading and reacting, I think, is different. I think this warning is so that no one straight up like uses his narration, and then you know what I mean, and then adds their own stuff to it, and then says it's their work. Their own. They'll just use his narration, find Google Images, and then re-upload it and say it's their own. I think that's what he's trying to avoid. So we're gonna keep going because I haven't been the stream hasn't stopped. We've been playing. We played the first one all the way through, and normally if a video is not friendly, it'll shut down my stream. So I'm gonna assume this is okay, and I'm gonna keep it fair use. This is transformative. Right now, his work only makes up literally a quarter of my work, my screen, and I'm giving commentary, as well as reviewing and introducing, and that's what this is really. Review / commentary, which is totally fine, and I'll make it even more fair usey when it's uploaded. Okay, I need to take a quick break. All right, and we're back. I know I'm taking a bit of a risk here, but I have to believe, because Mr. Nightmare's been cool with reactors for so long. Push and play. All right, I like the format, by the way.
My girlfriend of 7 years and I rented a beach house Airbnb in the Hamptons on Long Island in 2018. My girlfriend's name is Alicia. The house was very secluded.
That's such an old people thing to do.
Literally sat right on the beach.
Spend more time remembering the date.
The back door led to the dunes.
I'm just kidding.
It was also more or less a completely private beach during the day,
Family
except
Guy
for the
joke.
occasional locals going for walks or jogs along the dunes.
Not mine.
We were there for 3 days and 2 nights.
I know that's probably not their property, but that's
For the most part,
nice.
we lay in the sand with drinks, or we jump in the pool in the backyard of the house.
Must
The
be
first
nice having
night
a
we
big
went to
house.
some local bars to drink a little bit, then went back to the house to relax and watch a movie.
All right, good times so
The second
far.
day, like I said, we basically did the same thing as the first day. Only this time we hopped in the pool first before going to lay on the beach to dry off. The house was absolutely gorgeous, a fantasy home for Alicia and I. Woods surrounding the house, pool in the backyard, and beach 10 steps from the back door. It all seemed like it was going to be a fantastic weekend getaway. We stayed on the beach for many hours, until around maybe like 4 or 5. Right as we started packing up and I stood up, I looked at the house. At
What
one of
did
the
you
windows
see?
Specifically, and I thought for sure I could see someone standing at the window, looking down at me. The sun was kind of creating a glare on the window in its
Weirdos, I
current
tell ya.
position, so I couldn't tell 100% if my eyes were playing tricks on me. I grabbed Alicia's shoulder and pointed up at the window. "Do you see that?" I asked. When she said, "See what?" I could see that whatever I thought I saw didn't seem to be there anymore. I told her to keep packing up while I ran back to the house and up the stairs to the bedroom window where I thought I saw someone or something. The room was empty though, as was the closet, under the bed, and the rest of the upstairs rooms. The only noise was the sound of the window air conditioners in various rooms, and then the door opening downstairs. It was Alicia arriving with the stuff, so I chalked it up as seeing things after lying in the sun for hours. That night, we hit a couple of the same bars again. We stayed out later this night because it would be our last night there. I think we got back around 11.
Oh, it's clearing my throat.
Upon entering the living room, we tried to flick the lights on, but they wouldn't. Then we noticed all the digital clocks on the cable boxes were off too. So
I wish. I'm not Jenna Marbles.
I looked around for a circuit box, but couldn't find one. It was way too late to call the homeowner. All that would happen is we'd miss out on watching a movie that night. We were tired anyway, so we just went upstairs using our phones to provide us enough light to prevent us from falling on our faces up the stairs. We went to bed, and the alcohol in Alicia's system helped her knock out pretty quickly. But then, I sat up when I felt like I heard something from outside.
Does alcohol really help you sleep?
I looked at the doorway. Someone walked past the doorway in the hall. I covered my mouth with my hands to prevent my squeal of horror from being heard. I lifted myself over Alicia to get off the bed and run to lock the door. The second I locked it, there were knocks on the other side, and someone said, "It's the landlord. I came to fix the power." I didn't believe it for a second.
That knocking effect was good. I thought that was my room for a second.
And the door started to shake as the man on the other side started twisting and shaking the doorknob. My girlfriend woke up and started to scream as she realized what was going on.
Home invasion, dude.
I screamed, "Call the cops" to her, and I think this caused the man on the other side to stop. The next thing that happened after waiting in silence and fear was the sound of the police officers downstairs. They had entered the house through the front door that was apparently left open.
What?
The police investigated, took a report, and said they'd let the local media know of the incident. They even helped us find the circuit box and restore power.
Alright, what's the name of the local media?
We left first thing in the morning, and on the ride home, I called the landlord, who said he hadn't even been near the Hamptons for a few weeks.
Oh, man. Yeah, obviously that wasn't the landlord, dude. Oh, look at that.
The story I'm going to be telling you took place around 4 years ago as of today. I haven't told many people about this story because it's something I try to forget. Here's my story. It was a Monday evening, 4th of July. I just finished sophomore year in high school.
Time to
I was invited
immortalize
to a
this
few
story.
4th of July parties. My parents
I'm not
grounded
gonna
me
tell
a few
it.
days prior, so I couldn't
All
go
right,
to any of them.
I get it, kind of.
However, I live in a neighborhood that's very connected, so my neighbors had a party outside in the cul-de-sac. My parents forced me to come outside for it. I'm not extremely awkward or anything, but I hate talking to older adults because I never know what to talk about. Luckily, I had a friend named Eli who lived in the same area, so I called him up and we hung out at the party. After a few minutes at the party, we got extremely bored. It just wasn't fun for us because there was no one our age in the area. We talked a little bit. Then Eli asked, "Doesn't Savannah live like down this street? We should go door ditch her."
I know a Savannah.
I agreed to Eli's suggestion, and we were on our way down the street. To clarify, Savannah is that extremely popular girl that every guy has a crush on in high school. It was awkward enough that we were neighbors, but her dad was also my dentist.
Who
We made our way down the
films
street.
fireworks?
The sun began setting quickly. Eli and I made jokes about dumb things we found funny at the time.
Just watch.
Being honest, we were both pretty nerdy our sophomore year. I eventually asked Eli if he knew where the house was located because I'd never been to Savannah's house before. After scanning the whole area of houses, Eli began pointing to my west. He was
When's this
pointing
gonna
at a big
take a
house that
scary
was pretty
turn?
complex. We lived in a mediocre area in Michigan. Houses
Right now
like
they're
this
visiting
one were
someone.
rare here. Anyway, we sneakily approached the house.
So far it
It
sounds
was only
real.
to our surprise that no one was home. No cars in the driveway, the lights were
These
off, nothing.
kids.
We both began observing the house. We agreed that she probably went on a trip with her family.
She's not there, so leave,
I
dude.
suggested that we come back next week and do the door ditch. Eli didn't listen, though.
Oh, are they
Kept
trying
staring
to
at the
ding-dong
house.
ditch?
He approached the front door. "Eli, let's go." I
Should have been
yelled.
listening better.
He told me to be quiet as he opened the front door. His face lit up. They left the door unlocked.
Oh no,
Eli
dude.
suggested that we explore the house and that it would be quick. Being the curious teens we were, we entered the house. It was dark and
My
extremely
guess-
cold. We both split up, exploring the
Parents are
enormous
gonna be
house.
back.
I went into every room
Someone's
of the
gonna
house
come
and
back.
began to feel extremely guilty because that was considered breaking into someone's house. Also, we were invading the family's privacy. After a few minutes of contemplation, Eli began screaming. I walked over to the screams and found Eli. He was leaving what I believe was Savannah's room. "Why are you screaming?" I
What?
asked. He began walking me to the nearest bathroom. He locked the door and started whispering, "There was someone watching me in the closet." I tried reassuring him the person was probably a family member who thought we were breaking into the place. He immediately responded, "Why would he be hiding in a girl's room then?" From what I saw, the room's walls were entirely white, the bed covers were white, and it just overall gave off a girl's room vibe. I became suspicious myself. That was when we began to hear footsteps approach the bathroom door. We tried listening, but the walking seemed to stop. I
Awkward.
told Eli to be quiet. Someone started mumbling something outside the door. Shortly after, there was knocking on the door. It started out soft.
Oh,
As it continued, it got louder and louder.
the
It sounded as if
knocking.
someone was trying to break down the door.
I'm glad I'm not wearing my
It started
headphones for
becoming a
this.
scene out of a horror movie when the person started screaming. It was a man's scream.
A man
Turned around
screaming.
and panically tried to open the window
Yeah,
behind
they
us.
just saw a man.
It was bolted down. I thought we were dead. There was a wrench right next to the toilet, and I used it to destroy the window. We jumped out of it.
Oh,
and
okay.
fell
I would have
onto the
used it for
bushes
something
below.
else. But
Still
no,
managed
actually,
to
no.
break
Smart.
my ankle, but we ran out of there fast.
They're
Both Eli and I were so
They're breaking
confused
and
as to
entering.
who that person was and what their intentions
Thanks,
were.
boo boo. He's
A few
clapping
days
for me.
passed.
Can't
the
see.
family came back. I couldn't take the guilt anymore. I turned myself into the cops and admitted to breaking in. The cops asked me a few questions.
And then
Later, they sat me down with my dentist, or the homeowner.
what happened?
I began the conversation with, "Yes, I'm guilty, but the guy hiding in your daughter's closet nearly tried killing me." My dentist showed mercy and didn't press charges. However, he just started to become
The daughter of
anxious
their
since he told me
dentist.
he
A lot of
never
weird
invited
details in
anyone to
this.
stay at our house.
Small towns, man. I guess. I don't know. Again, these stories are following a common theme. Oh, you're
I used to
waving. I
work at
thought
a
that was
small
clapping.
sleepaway camp as a counselor. It was my first job when I was 17.
It always has to
It
do
was the
with
most fun I could have at
people
any job that
hiding and
age.
sneaking in and
Plus, it would get
breaking
me
in.
away from my parents' house for a
You know what I
month.
mean?
I didn't exactly come from an enviable background. So at this camp, there were 5 buildings. The boys' dorms, the girls' dorms,
kinda feel
the
like
counselors' dorms, the main hall, which
It's
we
like-
called the
you
shack,
guys remember
and a small bathroom building.
Hustler magazine.
In the shack was the cafeteria, main
Those
office,
stories
and
in the
nurses'
back.
quarters, where any kids who suffered any kind of injuries
A lot of
would
those
be brought.
stories were usually fake.
Kids' curfews would be 9 o'clock. Curfews only meaning they weren't allowed
People
out
would
of the
submit 'em
dorm
anyway.
buildings past that time. I made good friends with this guy named Johnny.
Okay.
He was 3 years older than me, but we got along. It was
Some of
a
these
Friday
sound
night.
real.
I remember
Let's
because I
give
knew
it
it was the start of the
More of
weekend.
a chance.
So for fun, Johnny and I went to hang out with these 2 girl counselors, who I'll leave their names out for privacy.
Scary stories,
since
boo.
I haven't seen them in many years. The 4 of us went out to the woods to smoke. One of the
kind of
girls
smoke?
were mid-sentence when all we heard was a crunch of leaves in the vicinity. Surely a footstep. All of our heads turned the same way and at the same time. We all heard it. Then, a few seconds later, there was a blinding flash. We didn't understand at first. Unnerved, all of us cut the smoke sesh short and exited the woods at an extremely quick pace.
Oh, yeah, they couldn't
Being back
oh,
at
wait,
the
you can't
campground
understand, but
felt
they
a
were
lot
smoking.
safer immediately, but we became paranoid that we were being watched by one of the
Yep.
camp supervisors, and
Yep.
that the flash was
I
a
would think
picture
that
being
too. I
taken.
wouldn't be thinking it's a
We would
pervert.
surely get fired if we were caught smoking weed.
I'd be thinking I'm in
So
trouble.
a paranoid panic. We all rushed to
They
our
didn't even
respective
have to
dorm
say weed, I
buildings. The thing about me when I smoke weed, though, I get extremely paranoid and overthink
Yeah,
everything.
not just you, pal.
So as I sit in my bed, it ate away at me, wondering if it was indeed a camera flash, and who took that picture. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to go to the shack and see if any of the supervisors were still working and come clean. Every counselor had a key to the building, so I unlocked the door that led to the
That doesn't
cafeteria
narrow it
section,
down.
and the door slammed behind me,
Oh, no, never
echoing into the dark, empty building. The only light was coming from that hallway, which I would take to get to the main office, hoping there would be someone still working. You may think I was crazy to be doing this, but I'm not exaggerating when I say I get paranoid. And I really couldn't afford to lose this job over something that wasn't even my idea. However,
So far,
I
this
would
sounds
feel
real.
out whichever supervisor was on
This
duty
one.
and see if they had actually seen what we were doing.
Yeah, he's
As I
checking
walked
it
down
out.
the hall towards the office, though, I
Overthinking,
realized
yep.
quickly that the office light was off. No one was in the building.
There's a reason he's
Just then,
smokes in
I
the
heard
first
the
place.
familiar sound of the cafeteria exit door that I had just went through slamming again. Was I seen entering the building? Was I being followed? I hid behind the intersecting hallway wall, peeking my head around, waiting to see who would be walking into the hallway. No one ever did, though. But it took me longer than it should have to notice something peering around the doorway to the cafeteria.
Oh
It was a
no.
person's head. They were doing exactly what I was doing, peering in my direction. When I realized this, I didn't care about being quiet anymore. I ran as fast as I could to the nearest exit, feet stomping on the wood flooring. I ran to the counselor dorm, where only 3 counselors were still chilling in the common area, one of them being Johnny. I told him and only him about what I just witnessed. I didn't know what to think other than I was being followed. I think Johnny could tell I was being a little extra paranoid because I was high. So he told me to just go to my room and lock the
Why do
door.
I like this one?
He made sure to lock the main entrance to the building
Why do I
because
like
I
this
think I
story?
scared him too. That night I lay awake for a while, thinking, nervous. So many unanswered questions from one night. The beds in every counselor's room lay right next to a window without blinds, so moonlight would pour in on clear nights, but not on this cloudy night. It was just pure darkness. Until,
Pure
however,
darkness.
many hours after laying down, a flash filled my room. Lightning? No. There was no thunder, not even rain. I looked at the window, and all I saw was someone's silhouette out there. When they noticed me noticed them, I saw their hand making a waving motion at me. That was the last straw.
Another
I left my
person
room
waving
screaming
from a
for
distance.
Johnny. He had already gone to bed at this point, so I banged on his door till he opened
Well,
up.
actually, I don't think we've seen
I
someone
told him the
wave
man who was following
yet.
me was at my window, so he went to check with me, but figures, he was gone. Johnny asked me if I was still high. I told him not at all, it had been hours. I asked if we should call the cops or something. He said no. He told me to sleep on the floor in his room with my blankets if it made me feel better. Low-key, I think he wanted me to because he was scared just like I was. I didn't understand why on the surface
Yeah,
he was
dude.
pretending to not take this seriously, given that he saw the first flash in the woods with me. I did sleep in his room, though. I didn't want to sleep alone. I was too terrified. The next day, I went to the main office to talk with one of the supervisors. She didn't really know what to do. She didn't call the police, but she gave me permission to call them if something else
Sounds like
happened,
a counselor.
for the safety of the children. But nothing happened again. Not until the last day on the job for counselors. This was when the kids had already went home, and it was the day we were supposed to pack up and leave. I woke up to 4 pictures taped on my window.
Oh, what?
One zoomed in on me in the woods that night with Johnny and the 2 girls. A second picture of me sleeping in my bed.
He's being messed
Third
with.
picture of me entering the shack building that night we smoked, confirming I was being watched and followed. And the 4th picture, a zoom in of my license plate number.
This guy
I took the
probably
photos
thinks he's a
and
good
showed them to the
Samaritan,
same
whoever took these
supervisor.
pictures too.
She
Doesn't
kept
realize
them
how
for
creepy,
evidence after
creepy
writing
he
down
is.
my whole story, including the smoking weed part. This was many years ago now, and nothing ever happened again. But I was scared to death that the picture of my
Oh, wow.
license plate was
Yeah,
some
okay,
kind
I
of
believe
threat,
that one. That
and
one's
whoever it
definitely
was would track me.
believable.
I still don't know who took those pictures.
I have a couple of scary stories that happened to me when I was younger, and also high. Group of us in my friend's basement. Parents are out of town, and his grandma shows up. We're hotboxing his basement, watching Disney movies. That was trippy, and that was like in my first year of smoking, so it was extra scary. Like, what is happening? I just walked straight out, and oh my god, we left the damn baggie in there on the TV. So what did we do after we left? Shortly after, we snuck back and we We went and got it. Snuck back into the house. Good times. Alright, I'm gonna BRB. BRB. Let's do this. Love that intro. Oh my god. Okay, you know what? Right after this, I'll tell my own sleep paralysis story. How about that?
Has anyone ever had sleep paralysis before?
Yes.
I tell you, it's one of the
Not in a long
strangest,
time,
most
though.
fascinating, yet horrifying things that you could experience. It's the feeling of being unable to move upon awakening. Your senses and awareness are intact, but you still feel
I know
as though
all about
you're
it.
in
You gotta
this
force
half-asleep,
yourself out of
half-awake
it.
state. I'd heard stories of this long before it happened to me. I've only experienced
Not
this
me.
once. I was in college. I was going through an incredibly
I didn't
tough
hear
time in
stories
my life.
before it happened to
was
me. I had
insanely
to
stressed
Google it
during
after.
finals week.
And then I
I
found
wasn't
out.
getting much sleep. It must have been the
Oof.
night before my last final. I went to bed late because I stayed up all night studying for bio. I don't remember at what point I decided to finally call it. I just remember it all becoming a blur, then blackness. Next thing I remember, I was in my room, in my bed, but there was this weird haziness.
What
in
did
my
you see?
awareness. Like I was awake.
Was it
but
worse than
felt
what I saw?
weaker. And when I tried to move, I couldn't. I could only move my eyes to look around the dark room.
Yep.
At one point, when I guess I was looking to one side of the room, I looked back to the center.
I thought I
There
was
this woman standing dead
scared,
center in the
frozen.
room, facing the bed. She was wearing this black
my God.
dress and holding some long object. I wanted to call out, "Mom?" but my paralysis prevented it. I couldn't say anything. The woman came closer to me until she knelt down and touched my forehead.
It was a woman.
I could feel it. She got eye to eye with me. I could see my mother's face.
This is
I tried to say "Mom" again, desperately.
that
I was
image, this
stuck in my
imagery.
own body.
It's pretty accurate.
She stood back up and walked to the doorway before disappearing into the house. I lay
Tell you
there, unable
after.
to move, maybe another 10 to 20 seconds before my vision suddenly became more clear, and I was able to think more clearly as well. I was able
Oh,
to sit
man.
up. I jumped out of the bed, screaming "Mom" over and over. I ran to the bedroom hallway, yelling her name. A door opened down the hall, and someone came to hug me, but it wasn't my mom. It was my dad, telling me he misses her too. My mom died 3 weeks before this happened.
Okay, you could have told us that at the beginning of the story, but alright. Clever, very clever of you. But that's believable.
You know what I love about dreams? How
Your
vague
mom
and
showed
how
up
bizarre
as
they
a
can be. You feel like you're in this separate world
Sleep
where things
paralysis
can just
demon?
make no sense. Now, what about when that unearthliness transcends into
Was
the
it really her, though?
quote-unquote real world? You'll see what I mean in a minute. I was in REM sleep having this bizarre nightmare about being followed by some weird creature in the middle of the woods. The dream became
The
fuzzy
woods.
though, and I kind of woke up from it. I say kind of because while I was out of the dream and back in my bed,
I once
couldn't
actually
move a
dreamt of
muscle in
Freddy
my
Krueger.
body. I started hearing this faint, weird noise. It was this indescribable,
Freakiest thing ever.
robotic, yet alive type sound. It started light and soft, but it repeated every 3 seconds. I noticed it was getting slightly louder every time. I felt like the sound was getting closer.
Sounds like
It
the
got
villain
so
from
unbearably loud in my head, I just wanted to scream, but I
Into the
couldn't.
Spider-Verse.
Then my eyes locked onto the closet door.
Spidey's uncle,
Specifically,
Miles
the crack in the
Morales.
closet door, which I never leave open, ever. There was this distorted
What's
face
his
of a
name?
man
Shoot.
looking between the crack, with
Him,
this
though.
unhumanly large, open-mouthed smile. And every time I heard the noise, it seemed as if the closet and the face were getting closer, until
This
the
is a
closet
creepy
door
story.
slammed
I'm digging
shut,
it.
and everything went silent. I regained control of my body shortly after that, and the first thing I did, even though I was 24 years old,
But I don't know, just
run
because
to
it
my parents' room to get my dad
doesn't
to
suit
check
my
the closet
experience.
with me.
It's not like what happened to me.
There was nothing in the closet, though, or the rest of
Doesn't
my room.
mean
My dad seemed pretty
not true.
confident that what I just experienced was sleep paralysis, and that he had experienced it once as well. Didn't make me feel any less disturbed about what I just went through.
Yeah, no kidding, pal. I hear ya. We're already on story 3. Time flies when you're having fun.
Many years ago, I had a sleep paralysis experience. I knew there was a thing in my closet, something really evil, but I also knew I was dreaming and I should face my fear. I tried not to look directly at the closet door, but if I moved my eyes, my head would turn away. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't look directly at it. Then I woke up in a cold sweat. At first I felt really relieved that it was over, but very shortly I realized it wasn't a dream, and there was really something in the closet. I was laying on my back and
One of
couldn't
those.
move. I didn't really hear it, but I could kind of feel the sickening laughter wash over me in waves, emanating from the closet.
Could have still been a dream.
All of a sudden, the thing throws a human head at me, and it lands on my chest face up. It was this girl I knew in high school. Up to this point, I was kind of holding it together, terrified but not panicked. Well, I lose it now.
Or not
I
real
can't
story.
even scream. All I could do is make these grunting sounds and moaning noises. I'm wriggling and straining, trying to rock from side to side to get it off me, but I can't move. This seemed to last maybe another minute or
Creepy.
two, and I really woke up.
It's a good
It
story,
was so
though.
traumatic that for weeks I would be scared when I woke up that I wasn't actually awake and something horrible could happen at any second.
Yeah.
It still makes my skin crawl when I think about that laugh. The thing is, I never heard of sleep paralysis or night terrors at that point in my life. I thought I was losing my mind.
When it happened to me, sleep terrors. Okay. That's a little more believable just because, okay, like I said before, just because I didn't experience it personally doesn't mean that what they're experiencing didn't happen. Talk about what happened to me. So that was like a combination of sleep paralysis and night terrors. My luck and
I've
hat's
suffered
gonna
sleep
pop
paralysis a total of
shortly.
3 times in my life. The first 2 times, it just consisted of me waking up not being able to move my body. The third time was much different though. I had woken up very early morning, probably like between 5 and 6 a.m., when the sun was just starting to come up. There was light in the room, but barely any.
Twilight.
I tried to move, but I had that unfortunately
My favorite
familiar
time of day.
feeling of paralysis, helplessness. My eyes fixated on the wall.
Well, the way it looks.
There was nothing I could do. Then suddenly, I heard
Actually,
heavy
no.
footsteps coming up the stairs of my bedroom. It was my brother, followed by my sister, dad, and
Sunsets
mom.
are cool.
They were all sobbing hysterically, and they all seemed to be at least a foot taller. It was unnerving. The 4 of them approached my bed, then stopped at the bedside,
What'd they do?
towering over me, all 4 of them crying. I
Why?
couldn't move. I wanted to cry for help or just yell at them to stop because they were scaring me.
Yeah,
Their
that's
heights,
scary.
they looked like they were near to hitting the ceiling. Then, just as quickly as they entered, all 4 of them turned and walked back down the stairs. I could move again, and so I ran down the stairs to follow them, but they
Oh,
weren't in
man.
the outside area. I went to each of their rooms one at a time. All 4 of them were fast asleep. My heart was racing because the most surreal, unnerving thing just happened to me. I had to lean on the wall to gather my thoughts for a second, breathing heavily. Falling back asleep was futile the rest of the night. I lay awake until the sun was fully up.
It's getting
A few days
scarier
later,
and
I was
scarier,
struck
man.
by a speeding car when crossing the road with friends and ended up with 3 broken bones and a fractured thigh bone. I was hospitalized for a week, and at one point, all 4 of my family members stood next to my hospital bed, looking down at me, my mom being emotional and crying. It was almost the same image from my sleep paralysis. I'm not superstitious at all, but if I were, I would 100% believe that dream was some kind of sign, or some kind of prediction of the future. In fact, I
See it
just
as
got
a sign,
chills
dude.
writing that last sentence,
Pulp
thinking
Fiction.
about it.
Samuel L. Jackson, what happened to him, he saw it as a miracle. John Travolta didn't. He brushed it off. So
There was this
Samuel L.
one
Jackson,
time I was
Jules,
out late drinking
left the
with
life.
friends. It was some point in the
Look
summer
what
of
happened
2016.
to John
We were
Travolta.
kind of just walking around
Vincent.
town and then around the neighborhood when one of my friends spotted someone hiding in a bush. He pointed and said, "Look," and we all walked a little closer to get a better look.
This is a
We could
good
see what
choice
he
of
was talking
picks.
about, but just barely. It
There's a
was
certain
bizarre.
familiarity to
Someone
them.
hiding in this bush in front of this house. When we got too close, apparently,
This could be any
this
street,
weird,
really.
off-putting sound
I've
started
walked down
coming from the
streets like
bush.
this. We all have.
So we all screamed and laughed and ran away. We screamed because it was scary, but laughed because at the same time it was bizarrely funny. And there were a lot of us, so... Anyway, we walked back to our houses respectively.
Weird,
assuming whoever was in that bush
real.
was just messing with people. I fell asleep pretty easily that night since I was drunk, but next thing I remember was waking up to the near pitch blackness of my room. I couldn't look at the clock to see what time it was because I literally couldn't move. I was in a sleep paralysis state. I looked around the room with my eyes only and started to hear a familiar noise. The noise we heard coming from that bush. And I looked straight in front of me, at the foot of my bed, and what I saw was pure nightmare fuel. It was what appeared to be this floating, grotesque, horrific head of a demonic ghost-like thing. As it got closer to me, I realized it wasn't
the fact that more than one person saw a head.
But its body blended in with the blackness of the room. Its mouth hung open, and it just kept making the familiar noise
hearing
from the
those
bush.
Similarities.
It got mere inches from my face before it suddenly just faded away.
Makes me
I was able
find
to
it less
let out
believable,
a
but in this case,
body.
makes it more
I
believable.
sat in my bed, panting and heart racing. I flicked on the lamp,
just
and
like a lot of
checked
people
around
see
my
a
bed,
shadow
but
person.
that demonic thing was gone.
Do a certain amount of people see a head? Maybe.
What I just experienced seemed so real, like I was awake for it. It wasn't a dream.
I know, dude. Me too. It felt real.
I told my parents about it the next day, and they agreed with me that it was sleep paralysis, though they had never heard of anyone seeing freaky shit like that before.
Love it. Yeah. That sounds like sleep paralysis, but that kind of shit, like that's the kind of shit you would see off The Grudge, man. Damn. Oh, I hope. They were all good. Most of those I found believable. Of course, as soon as you start talking crap, a video pops up that proves you wrong. And that's what that video did. So, alright, I'm looking forward to this one. 3 scary new house horror stories. So it's not new as in like new episode. Well, it was at the time. They're referring to, oh my goodness, a little spacey, the fact that it's a new house they've just moved into. But you already knew that, so why am I mansplaining? Let's push play. First image, right off the bat, lets you know. Oh boy.
I bought my first house that I currently still live in 2 years ago. I was in the unpacking and settling in phase.
Cool.
At the time, I
I'm
was
jelly.
single and living
Wish
alone,
I had my place.
but I just figured it was time for a house. I had a couple friends over to help me unload the truck full of boxes, and I paid them with food since they wouldn't accept money.
Okay, right off the bat, I don't find that believable. You don't have
When
one
my friend
friend who
Dale
would
went to
take
the
the money?
bathroom, he came back and said he heard some noises from inside the walls, and that it sounded like there were some pipe issues. I took note of it, and the two of them
Like in the
left a
first
little later.
Conjuring, there were pipe issues.
Since it was a Saturday,
that first
I
house to
stayed
show
up
that
pretty
it's
late
not
on
always
my laptop
paranormal.
watching Netflix. However, I was hearing some light thumping sounds from above me, which
That's
is
such
odd
a familiar
because my
sight.
bedroom is upstairs. The only thing that could be above me would be the attic. Then I remembered Dale's comments about the noises from inside the walls. I went to the attic door and pulled it down, and I actually had to take a deep breath because I was a bit nervous. I climbed the stairs
nervous
into the
for
attic
you,
and pulled
dude.
the light switch down. One very dim yellow light buzzed on, just barely lighting up the attic. The noises in the walls stopped though. Either that, or the noises just weren't coming from the attic, I imagined. With no boxes up there yet, it was just basically a big empty space, and I could clearly see no one was up there.
Ugh.
The only things in the entire attic were a couple giant framed paintings leaning on one of the walls. I went back down to my room and tried to
Frame
get some sleep.
painting, someone's immortal
I heard
out
the
there, and
noises
if they look
again.
at that painting, they'll die.
Now I started to fear there was a small animal on the walls, like a raccoon. The sound still seemed to be coming from directly above
Let
my
me guess,
room.
it was a person.
It had to be in the attic. So once more,
Someone called into
I went up
penthouse
into the
with,
attic and looked to where I thought would be directly above my bedroom.
Another home invasion story.
The thing is, the attic didn't seem to extend the entire length of the house. So there's a wall covering where the section above my room
That
should
came
be.
out wrong, actually.
I walked over to the wall just to listen for potential noises. And I did hear
You guys
noises
know what
from
I
the
meant.
other side of this wall. Then I looked at the two paintings leaning on the wall, how they were slightly
Comparing
angled.
Mr. Nightmare to
started to
Penthouse Farm.
raise.
Okay.
I walked to the paintings and
Can you
slightly
submit
angled
stories?
one
Where do you
upwards off
submit
the
them?
wall, revealing a big hole in the wall.
Watching, paying
It
attention.
took a few seconds for the reality
Pothead.
to sink in. As I held the painting at an upright position, the painting was suddenly pushed out of my grip to fall flat on the floor. I nearly had a heart attack. Out from the hole came this sickly-looking girl. She seemed to be high on something. She was shaking, making weird noises, and she would start this creepy laughing. She grabbed onto me and dug her nails into my shoulders so hard I screamed, and I pushed her as hard as I could off of me. She fell backwards into the
Squatter.
secret room, and I ran to the exit and shut the attic door behind me.
All right, this is a believable
I
story,
locked
but
myself in my room as I called the police and reported that a crazy,
the way you
dangerous
tell it is
person
like
was
a
in my
horror
attic.
story.
Cops arrived within 5 minutes. 3 cop cars ended up pulling up.
I feel like
There were
kind
a
of makes it
total of
less
5
believable.
police
but
officers
when
in
you
my house.
analyze the
4
events,
of them
it's
went
like,
into
no,
the
I
attic.
can see that
And I heard
happening.
the struggle. The girl
Moving to a
screamed
new house,
like a
someone's living in
creature.
the attic.
It sounded
Happens all
like
the
she was
time.
trying to attack the officers, which led to her getting tased.
Damn.
They finally managed to get her in cuffs and carry her out of the
Should've
attic
got that
and
on
outside to
camera.
one of the cars. The girl had to be like anywhere from 25 to 35 years old. But like
You're not
I
very
said,
good at
she
guessing a
looked
person's
sickly.
age, are you?
While the officers were still in the house, I went into the attic to examine the secret room. Inside was a pile of blankets, a dirty pillow, a lot of food wrappers, and human waste in one corner. It seemed as though this
Dude,
girl
she
had
dug her
been up there
nails
for a
into you. You
long
could get
time.
tested.
It was truly a nightmare to discover this on my first night in my new house. The girl was taken to a nearby psychiatric center to get her the help she needed.
How do you know? The police told you after the fact. That one, I mean, objectively, it seems like that could have actually happened, but we'll see. We'll see if it gets better than that. I don't know. Maybe it was just the way the story was written. Will this one get my heart pumping?
My dad helped me buy my first house when I was 28. I was never spoiled, but my dad always had a lot of money, and when I wanted a house, he lent me a large amount of cash. The previous owners of the house were an
Lucky.
elderly couple.
I'm jelly.
As far as I know, the husband died many years before I moved in. The wife died just a few weeks before I bought the house. The son of the
Okay.
couple who sold me the house kept a lot of the furniture in the house for me, and he took only what he really needed or wanted, which made things easier for me, less furniture to buy. I did dump some of the more
Lucky.
outdated stuff on the curb though, including this old rocking chair that was sitting in the living room.
Uh-oh.
A lot of the furniture just had an older, creepy
Why do I have
vibe
a
that I
feeling
didn't
that was
want in the
bad?
house. The next day, I was cleaning out more junk in the
rocking
upstairs
chair
section of the
comes
house
back.
for most of the day. A lot of it was heavy lifting, so I'd take breaks in between, and this ate up most of the day. I didn't
I'd
really
take
get an ounce
breaks
of
in
sleep
between
the night
literally
before,
everything
as
I
have
do,
a mild
dude.
form of insomnia which affects me certain nights. That second night, having moved into the house, I went out to get some Chinese for dinner because I had no energy to cook. When I got back, I was disturbed to find the front door was unlocked. Now, I truly don't remember if I had simply forgotten to lock it or not. I wanted to believe I forgot.
Really?
But it just seemed so unlikely I'd forget to do that, especially with my brand new house. I started flicking on every light of every room on the main floor. The more light, the safer I'd feel. I then proceeded up the stairs to do the same there, in the common area and in all 3 bedrooms. There was also a basement to the house that I'd only been down inside once at that point. It was not a big basement like you would expect though. It was kind of just a small storage space where the washer and dryer happened to be.
Really?
I was already feeling a lot more confident that I had just simply forgotten to lock the door.
Never been to a big house
but
with
I
a
still
small
had to check
basement.
the basement before I could confirm this.
Just me, though.
I opened the basement door and I flicked on the light. As I got halfway down the stairs,
Probably
I saw
haven't
an
been to a
old
lot of big
rocking chair
houses.
sitting
A
in the
few.
middle of the basement.
I was always
I
amazed.
didn't remember it being there the first time I saw the basement, and when I stood over it, I could swear it was the same rocking chair I had thrown away the night before. If not the same one, at least an identical one. I looked around the basement though, and there wasn't anyone down there, so I did calm down just a bit. I headed back upstairs to eat my Chinese food. I remember leaving the basement door cracked open though, which sat right next to the kitchen, and I started hearing rickety, creaking sounds from downstairs. I ran to the basement door and I tried to turn on the light, but it wouldn't turn on this time. All I could think was, what the hell
What?
was that noise? I went to the kitchen to grab my flashlight from under the sink.
So I was
I
right.
went a quarter of the way down the stairs with the flashlight beaming down to the bottom, and I saw the rocking chair moving, and someone was sitting in it. It was an old woman with gray, curly hair, glasses, and she was dressed in a pink nightgown. Her head slowly turned to be looking up at me. I gasped and left the basement, closing the door this time. I don't know what I was immediately thinking at that point. All I knew was I had to call the police. But when they came, they searched the whole basement with me, and we didn't find anyone.
That's why we do what we do.
There were also no hidden compartments or exits down there where she could have escaped through. At a certain point, the cops started looking at me like I was crazy. I knew it. And pretty soon they left. I had the contact details of the son of the couple who owned the house before me. So I called him up around 8 or 9 p.m. and described the lady to the best of my ability. He sounded shook,
a creepy story,
started
but
to
also
cry over the phone, and said I just perfectly described his mother and her favorite nightgown. He said he'd be right over. He got to the house within the hour, and we went downstairs
Stuff
together.
like this happen a lot. Must
He seemed to be in shock the whole time. I could
These
see
stories
his
feel
hand
like
shaking.
they're by the same
He ended
writer
up leaving with
sometimes.
the rocking chair after a while of talking with me and being very emotional.
Maybe
It
they
may
are.
have been emotional for
No.
him, but it was the
Maybe.
scariest thing I could have possibly ever witnessed with my own eyes. It still stands to be. I kept the
Would be.
basement door locked 24/7 after that.
I need to
I'd be
look
scared
into
to do
things.
laundry for months.
But you know,
after
we're
half
here.
a
This
year of
is my
nothing
commentary,
happening, it
my
wasn't that
honest
bad.
opinion on how I
I
feel
only
about
lived in that house a year and a half, though.
it. That's what we're here for.
Oreo oat cereal.
Another story where someone was in the house. This time it sounds like the old lady, grandmother of the previous owners. See, I'm struggling to remember if they confirmed that or not at the end of the story. If that's actually who it was. Maybe it was a ghost. Leave that open as a possibility. If you didn't. Oh man, I'm not joking. There are pros and cons to watching these in my state of mind. I should stick to ghost videos. No, we're having fun. I'm having fun. This is putting my brain to the test. This is an experiment. Yeah.
When I
Okay.
was 12 years old, my family moved to a new house in the countryside of Louisiana, located near a small village.
Did they?
We'd always
I don't
lived
know
in
anyone
rural
from
areas.
Louisiana.
Definitely grew up unfamiliar to the city lifestyle or anything even remotely close to that. The property was 3 acres and very
I'm familiar
private.
with both.
On the second night at that house, our dog
I'm a little
Parker,
bit
who would sleep in
country.
my room, started barking and growling in the middle of the night.
Whoa.
When he saw that I sat up in my bed, his tail
I'm a
started
little bit
wagging,
rock and roll.
but he'd continue to bark and growl. I couldn't tell what he was looking at, though. He was just looking towards the corner of the room. I checked the closet and nothing, so I told Parker to shut up, and he did. But I did keep hearing him lift his head off his bed every once in a while, reacting to something.
Oh man, when dogs notice stuff, it better be a
The next
ghost this
day,
time. Be a
An
ghost.
older man came and knocked on the front
Come on,
door.
paranormal.
My dad answered while I was in the living room watching cartoons. I heard the whole interaction. The old man introduced himself as Gene, the next door neighbor. My dad told
Did he?
me to come over and introduce myself, so I did. Gene seemed very kooky and aloof. Even my 12-year-old self could realize
Like me?
that. But he seemed
You were
nice,
12,
I guess.
dude? Okay.
The
That
next
would not
day,
be
I
me.
was in the backyard playing Pokemon on my Game Boy. My dad was in the front of the house mowing. The rest of my family wasn't home. Oddly enough,
He's gonna do
over
something.
walks
What's he gonna
Gene
do?
wearing a farmer's hat and overalls, talking to me in his thick southern accent, asking what I was up to. He actually sat
What
down
you
at the
up
table
to?
with me, which made me uncomfortable, especially considering he just walked into our backyard. Albeit there was no fence separating the front and backyard, but still. I told him I was playing
Still, dude.
Pokemon, and he knew what it was. Immediately making Pikachu noises, trying to be funny. But it
What?
was just unsettling. I
Pika-
started to
oh,
realize
that
there
is
really was
unsettling.
something off about this guy. My dad came to the backyard with a lawnmower, then turned it off when he saw Gene sitting next to me. He approached us and said hello with a smile, but I could tell based on my dad's face
Hello,
and
Gene.
tone that he was slightly confused what he was doing in our backyard. I never asked him that, but my dad told me I needed to go inside and wash the dishes.
This story
I knew he
sounds
was trying to get
legit.
me away from him.
Unless he shows up inside the house
A few
at some
minutes
point.
later, my dad came in and asked me if Gene just walked into our yard, and I said yeah. That's when he told me he didn't want me around that guy anymore, and to let him know if I saw him again. It wasn't until a few nights later that I woke up to Parker growling and barking again. This time he was looking at the window. I got up to open the window just to hear if something was going on out there. Quickly after opening the window, without seeing anybody out there, I heard Gene imitating Pikachu noises again, in his creepy old man's voice. I ran out of my room screaming "Dad" repeatedly. When I told my dad Gene was outside my window, he stormed outside to check. But when he couldn't find him on the property, he went to Gene's house next door. But here's the twist.
Sick the dog
That
on.
Gene guy didn't live next door. An older woman answered the door and had no idea who he was.
Oh!
So my dad went to every single neighboring house.
Twist.
And nobody had ever heard of a Gene. My dad called the police to report the man. Police said they would be on the lookout for him, and it even made the news. We never again saw or heard from Gene,
Okay.
or whatever his real name was.
Wow. That one is most... Yeah, I get why that one was number one, though. Well done. Way to end it with a bang. Damn. That was too spooky. Too spooky. Even for me. The thumbnail video. I'm excited for this one. Most excited for this one. Some of these were pretty damn good. I'm glad we did this. Hope it's all cool with Mr. Nightmare. I'm pretty sure he just put that disclaimer at the beginning to avoid people making their own videos with his narration. Because technically I'm narrating this video, right? Because he would have said use of this video, right? Use of this video and narration audio. I really do think we're in the clear. Because I'm an experienced reactor. I've dealt with this before. And there was that guy who pretty much made the same statement, but then clarified that reactions were cool, because that's not what he was talking about. Okay, fingers crossed. No, I know what I'm talking about. We're going to make this fun. More fun. Enjoyable. Be right back. My question is, would this have been made if not for...
Remember Chuck E. Cheese? That old arcade with the singing animatronics?
If not for
Of
the
course you do.
conspiracy video by
I just
Shane
found out
Dawson.
they went bankrupt recently. It made me think back
Let me
to
know
my
in the comments.
horrible
Maybe I'm
experience
wrong.
there
Maybe
as a very little kid. I was no older
Mr.
than 8 or
Nightmare's
9.
been doing Chuck E. Cheese
It was
stories.
like my third
longer
and last time
than anyone
ever
else,
at a Chuck E. Cheese.
for all I know.
This specific location closed down years ago, but it used to be basically down the street from our old house.
Chuck E. Cheese right
My
down
mom
the
took
street.
my little brother and
testing
I.
the audio
She let us roam
because
free and do our own thing
I
and
can't
play
remember
the games while she sat at one of the tables
if
reading
I
like most of the other parents. I was playing this clown game where you had to shoot the clown's teeth out with this little cannonball
Turned it
shooter.
on.
I was playing the games that
I
would get me the
remember
most
that
tickets for
game
the
that
prizes.
we didn't have Chuck E.
I
Cheese
finished
in
the
my
game again, and
hometown.
the ticket shot out from the ticket slot. That's when I felt a tap on my shoulder.
Ron's
I turned and jumped in my
Virtual
seat.
World in
was
Thunder
greeted with
Bay.
a giant
They have
Chuck E.
that.
Cheese
It's
mascot in
called
my
something
face.
else now.
He held out his hand for a high five, and naturally I gave him his high five with a smile. He then pointed at the tickets and gave me a thumbs up. I think I just continued laughing and smiling and said, yeah. Then he pointed
Why
at the
are
tickets
the
once
eyes
more and
working
motioned for me to
independently?
follow him.
That's creepy.
So I ripped the tickets from the slot and followed the giant mascot. As we walked across the main floor, a couple other kids around like 6 came up to him saying, "Hey Chucky," and he gave them both high fives.
Hey, Chucky.
I kept following him, wondering if he'd tell the other kids to follow, but he didn't. He would turn back every few seconds to make sure I was still following.
What?
Finally, we made it across the main
This
floor
and
by the
Chuck E.
stage
Cheese
towards
employees
this back
sketchy.
area, where he waved me to follow him through this employees-only door.
Oh no.
What I remember about how I was feeling,
This is
let's
bad.
just say a combination of weird and excited. We entered this narrow hallway.
Just
I
a
felt
kid.
kind of special for being allowed access back here.
Oh man.
Keep in mind, I had the mind and maturity of a very young child.
Yes, that's what I'm keeping in
The
mind.
mascot led me to this back room where he motioned for me to enter first, so I did. It was the small changing room type of room. It had a few
isn't
lockers
right.
on one wall and one long bench extending half the length of the room. That was it.
Dude.
He entered the room and shut the door behind us, and I noticed he locked it. That's when I became confused and afraid.
Yep.
I thought he was taking me to get a bunch of free tickets. What could he possibly do in this empty room with me?
Oh, man.
He approached me, put his furry mascot hand on my shoulder,
Furries.
and started rubbing from my shoulder to my arm.
Yep.
Then he seemed as though he tried to reach lower with both of his hands, and I pushed him off and yelled, "Stop." That's when the person in the suit lifted the mask off
20
his head,
years, it might not be
revealing
okay
some
to make fun
sweaty,
of furries.
middle-aged man underneath. He started to remove the rest of the costume from himself as he told me to be quiet. I sat there watching, shaking, and plotting my way for the door.
And I legitimately
When
I
I
don't
thought he
even
was
mean
distracted enough
no
by
offense,
the suit,
honestly.
I tried to run past him for the door, but he grabbed me and told me to stop. He offered me all the free tickets I wanted if I just behaved. I started to yell
Why
and
am I
pound on
laughing?
the door. He tried to cover
nervous,
my
I'm
mouth,
scared.
but I think he gave up when he realized it wasn't worth the risk for him. I unlocked the door and ran back down the hall in tears. I ran back to my mom, yelling at her about what just happened. She was distraught and went right to the front desk. The girl at the front desk seemed to be in a panic as well, and I think she called for her supervisor. Pretty soon, all the music was stopped and the place was put into a lockdown of sorts, where all the kids were to go to their parents. A bunch of workers ran to the back section, and eventually
Is this
police
what
showed up
happens
outside.
if this were to
I
happen?
had to give my whole story
Do
to
they
a
have a
crowd of
procedure
like
for
6
this kind of
people, and
thing?
I was extremely nervous.
Wow.
The man in the Chucky suit was some random creep who snuck into the back section of the building to dress in one of the suits and apparently lure children to the back.
He wasn't even an
Realizing and looking
employee.
back at that now as a grown adult is disturbing and disgusting. That I was the victim of a predator. I never found out if that monster was caught.
What? Oh, man. That's insane. That's horrible.
I used to work for Chuck E. Cheese very briefly when I was 21 years old. I was one of the janitors slash maintenance workers.
When he was 21.
No, not very awe-inspiring.
Different
I was
context.
broke as hell and needed
Different
money.
point of view.
All my job really entailed was cleaning tables and keeping the play areas generally clean. Sounds
I don't think I've ever
easy,
been
but
to
there
Chuck
was
E.
never really a
Cheese.
time
You
to
don't
just
think they
sit and
actually
take a
do that with the
breath.
pizza?
There was always something to clean or take care of. I would also be in charge of turning on and off the animatronics, opening the stage curtains, fixing busted arcade machines, and things of that nature. My shifts would always be later, from like 4 to 10 p.m. My location closed at 8 on weekdays and 9 on weekends. I would stay an hour, sometimes 2 hours after, to get the place in top shape ready for the next day. So this one night,
Okay.
I was working past close like I usually did. Everyone had already left the building, including the other workers. So
Even
I
though
was
I've
the
never been
last
to a
one in
Chuck
the
E.
building.
Cheese,
I was
most
dragging my cleaning cart around the
kid-friendly
arcade
places,
area.
like
I had
movie
already
theaters
turned
and
off all the
stuff, will
game
have like an
machines.
area like this.
I was by that space-themed arcade machine
Some
where you had
daycares.
to press the button at the right moment to stop the light on the jackpot.
This is
board.
nostalgic, my point
As I was
being.
passing by this
Don't you wish
machine,
you were a kid again?
space-themed music suddenly emits from the machine at a very loud volume, and all the lights start flashing again. I felt like my heart was in my throat. That's how much it startled me. I fiddled with my keys to access the control port of the machine to turn it off again. I'd never seen anything like that happen before. It suddenly just freaked me out.
Okay, is it
Only
paranormal
because I
this
was all
time?
alone in that big building pretty late at night.
That would be cool.
The weirdness didn't stop there, though. By this point in the night, I had already shut down the
I think it was that
animatronics
one
on the
time.
stage. So when I heard Chucky's pre-recorded laugh break the silence of the room,
Oh,
my heart started pounding again. The laugh was short and cut off.
this
It
a
almost
prank
sounded
or-
glitchy. I ditched my cleaning cart to go backstage and check on the animatronics, and I could see they were in their idle modes now, meaning they would move their limbs and heads around every so often.
really?
I would have to go to the control room to turn them off, but
This is all
was
stuff
the
we can
second
look up and
strange thing
confirm.
to happen that night. I started getting paranoid that someone else was in the building with me, but that thought was interrupted when I noticed that the Chucky animatronic was facing me, and its head angled down perfectly to look as though it was looking at me.
Oh, man.
It was bizarre.
Oh,
Bizarre that I was
yeah.
finding it that disturbing. I'm not crazy, but for my own peace of mind, with my eyes
Even
on
if
the
that was a
Chucky
coincidence,
animatronic,
that would
I walked past it,
be
closer
so
to
creepy.
the control room. I waited there for a few seconds, and then the animatronic spun 90 degrees to face me once more. perfectly. I swear it was
Maybe
once
it's
again
just the way
looking
it
right at
glitches.
me, and then the laughter emitted once again from the animatronic. But in a creepy, glitchy,
Ghost.
cut-off manner. This time much louder, obviously because I was right next to it.
Please be a
I ran
ghost.
to the control room to hit the switch to turn everything off on the stage once more. I left the control room, and the Chucky animatronic was still facing the direction it was moments before. I
Good
left the
night,
stage through
boo-boo.
the
I'm on
curtain
the
and
last
just
video,
felt
so I'll be
uneasy.
done soon.
I was starting to think maybe it was all just getting
Sweet
to my head.
dreams.
That's
I'll
when I
heart
heard
you
the
and I'll
horrible
miss
laugh
you.
again come from the stage behind the
My boo's
curtains.
in the chat. Babu.
That was the last straw. I took my card, clocked out, and left. I texted my boss the next day that I had to leave early because I was feeling extremely sick. He said it wasn't a problem.
Okay, boo,
But
I
he
will.
never mentioned anything about the animatronics being left on. And when I asked him if the animatronics had some kind of motion detecting feature to look at people,
What'd he say?
he said no, they didn't. I'm not the most superstitious guy, but I firmly believe I wasn't the only presence in that building that night.
No, it was
I don't
paranormal.
mean there
dude.
was another person in there.
I appreciate that story a lot because it leaves the possibility open that it was a ghost, and I saw this ad coming, so we are going to bypass it. Okay, story number 3.
This is a story from my childhood that I don't like to look back on too much. I was 13. My mom brought my 2 little sisters and I to Chuck E. Cheese one evening. My sisters are 4 and 6 years younger
This is
than me.
supposed to be the worst
so
one.
it was more for them. My mom just
Usually
wanted
how
me to
they're
come
ordered.
along. My mom was playing games with my sisters,
I'll
so
be
I
the
went to do
judge.
my own thing. It was my only time ever at Chuck E. Cheese, so I was trying to play every game at least once. Eventually, a worker in a red polo shirt came up to me. He was in his lower to mid-20s, I'd say.
Oh no,
He
is
didn't
this
seem that
another
old.
Predator story?
He asked me if I wanted some more tokens. I said, yeah, sure. He told me to follow him. He led me
Crap.
through this sketchy back door, which led to a back exit. I asked him where he was leading me. He said to his truck. He told me not to tell anyone, but
That
he
was
had
quick.
access to all the tokens he wanted, and just kept piles
No,
of them in his
dude.
car. I stopped following when I realized he was leading me to his car. I told him my mom would be mad. He tried to push that I follow him a little
at
more, but gave
chat.
up. Before I walked back inside, he asked for my AIM username, and I gave it to him. I was excited
now
for
I'm
new friends on
terrified.
AIM. For those of you who don't know, AIM was an instant messenger that was all the rage before smartphones and texting really became a thing.
Was it?
I don't remember his username. All I know it was
Sounds
something
familiar.
with
Is
his
that an
name in it,
AOL
which was
thing?
Ben.
I never used
I would
AOL.
sign on to AIM every single night, including that night after Chuck E. Cheese. I signed in, and I had a few friends online.
How long ago? Well, this is
Thing I
Chuck E.
knew,
Cheese.
I got a message from Ben.
There's a
So I
story
added
when
him
this
to
dude
my
was a
buddy
kid.
list. He said, hey, it's Ben from earlier.
So far, it's
I
believable.
replied, what's up? And we started chatting.
Oh
He
God.
chatted with me as if we were good friends already.
Yep. This.
I asked him
does
how
not
he was able
sound-
to get all the tokens
It
he
sounds
wanted.
real,
and he
but
said
not-
it's easy when
does
you
not
work
sound
there. He told me he was going to come to my house that night with a bunch of tokens. I told him, no,
Tokens?
it's okay. And he told me, no,
Chuck
it's
E.
fine.
Cheese
You live
tokens,
really
really?
close to me anyway. I replied, how do you know where I live? And he said he followed my mom's van on our way home.
Ah.
I blocked his account immediately. I was beyond scared. I told my friends about it on AIM.
Terrible.
Some of them said I should tell my parents or call the police. But I waited.
Buddy
He was
waited.
bluffing. But no, he wasn't.
That's not
I
what
heard
you
a truck
do.
pull up outside
Now
through
we
my
know.
open window. I looked out the window and saw the black truck that Ben guy was leading me towards earlier. I saw him get out from the truck, and I know he spotted me.
This Chuck E.
because he
Cheese one
started
may be the
walking over
best
to my
one.
window. I pulled the window in and locked it, and then shut the blind. By that point, he was already halfway to my window, and he was waving his arms at me. I ran to my mom to tell her. She didn't find it funny, thinking I was kidding at first, but I convinced her after she looked out the window and saw the black truck begin to speed down the road. My mom wanted me to show her the AIM conversation, but I couldn't, as I had deleted him off my buddy list and blocked him. My parents called the police.
If
of
you
course,
blocked him, you should
but that
still
was
have
just
his
for peace
email.
of mind.
If,
They couldn't
even
do
if he's
anything
deleted,
besides
because
make
you
a
can check
report.
your block list.
The next day, my mom called the Chuck E. Cheese and asked about
You
it
might
then.
not have known that.
They said they
though.
had no
It's
Bens who
possible.
worked there. There were also no employees matching that guy's description. The Chuck E. Cheese
talking about
eventually handed
MSN,
the
though.
CCTV
Maybe it's not the
footage
same
from
with
the day before to
whatever
the
he was
police
using.
department for an investigation, which turned up no results. My family never went to a Chuck
No
E. Cheese
results.
ever
He
again.
worked there. Unless he didn't, because I was talking over that detail. But wow. Regardless. Oh, too scary. Alright. Hey, it worked out. I like this. Goes with... It's spooky. Goes with the theme. Alright. We just watched some Mr. Nightmare True Scary Stories. I really like the Chuck E. Cheese ones. There's a lot of good ones. The New House Stories. Oh, the Sleep Paralysis. Especially because that one was a top 5 instead of a top 3. That one might have been my favorite. That one, or yeah, Chuck E. Cheese. But even the first one was good. But just because of the subject matter, you know, baby monitors was like, ugh, a little too scary. We don't need to go there. I don't need to be thinking of the possibility of someone. Is that a taco? What is that a picture of? I can't tell. Yeah, we're finishing up right now. Cheese? Oh, because of Chucky. Yeah. Like, now I forgot what I was talking about. But yeah, enjoyed these stories. And this was fun too. Like, hopefully, if it, we'll see if we get copyright claimed or anything like that, or blocked or striked or anything. And maybe we'll do this again. Like I said, big fan of this channel. I know, right? And another reason I really like the Chuck E. Cheese one is because the second story, I believe, needed to burp, sounded paranormal. Like there was a paranormal factor to that. It could have been a ghost. I don't think it was someone in there messing with him. They would have known. You know, they have cameras and stuff. And manipulating the Chucky mannequins. Yeah, good one to end on. And yeah, can't wait for the next one. He hasn't uploaded in a little while. I will definitely make a video the next time he does a top 10 paranormal list. Alright, so I'm gonna go text my boo, say goodnight, and yeah, to everyone else watching, you have a good night too. This was, yeah. See, this is a joke I've said before in other videos, but or comment, I should say, anecdote, whatever, but that's how you know when it's time to end it, when I start repeating stuff I've said before. I think that was the first time, but we've reached that point. Hey! Night, sis! Look who else is in the chat. The whole family. Alright, y'all have a good one. And yeah, I'm Snoopaloo. Thanks for stopping by. Yeah, this was fun. Already said that. Here we go. Good times. Make sure my undies cover everything up before I go to this angle. Alright. Laters.